from the AirTech Heating Studios, a Born to Win media production. Welcome to the resurrection of Say It Like You See It.
It's been a long time coming. We are finally back with another edition of Say It Like You See It. My name is Trace the Moose Moustakis, joined by my partner in crime, as always, Quinn, the Mighty Q Redmond. We are live here from Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, and also Fargo, North Dakota. Quinn, we took a much-needed break after the NFL season was done, and as we went through the final stretch of the NBA regular season, and now we're going into the NBA Finals, it's time to start talking a little bit more about the NBA Finals preview and going into the 2023 NFL season, because you know that's exactly what this show is all about. We love talking about our football. Let's bring you in for the first time in over a month. How you been?
Been crazy. Like you said, it was good to actually get some time off, some time that, like you said, we both had some things that we were doing. We had some other, it was more important, really kind of dead time in sports. I mean, we led right up until the draft, and then really after the draft there's this really lull period. Yes, free agency has its own hype and buzz, and it's got its own, but realistically, it's not that crazy. It's really kind of, I mean, yes, basketball season ramped up, but I mean, based off of this playoffs, it's like, oh, it's been crazy, but it's been some very unwatchable basketball, to say the least. Until
there's been, I'll say it this year, and we were just talking about this a little bit before we started. This year, I had seen there's like one really good team in basketball this year, and that's the Denver Nuggets. Every other team, Miami, this is a very popular thing that Colin Cowherd loves to say. They're a great story, right? They've got 4 undrafted free agents that came in that are all starting or playing at least throughout the rotation. They're a great story. They're not a great basketball team. The Celtics choked. The Milwaukee Bucks.
Whoa.
Oh, the Celtics choked. They choked. They choked.
Whoa.
Yes, you know that.
How can you say that they choked when they were down 0-3? To say that this even made it to 7, like everyone wants to go, oh man, the Bucks are terrible. They played like trash. And then people are like, oh, the Celtics threw it away. They played like trash. People were even saying that the Knicks, they blew the series as well. And it's like, let's acknowledge Eric Spoelstra is either the best coach, the second, maybe third.
Oh, there's no doubt. There's no doubt.
Like, that's where it stops.
There's no doubt.
And if you look at just that matchup, look at in this last one, Joe Mazzulla was not prepared nor ready. Now, I'm not blaming Joe Mazzulla, because honestly, we can look at what Tatum did. We can look at what Brown did. We can look at the cumulative in their first handful of games. The Celtics really only play when their backs is up against the wall. But either way, if you just looked at it and went, okay, head coaching matchup, it was probably 30th versus first or second. That is a big piece.
I can tell you that everything in this Miami Heat playoff run all the way to their finals, I'm not saying they're not a deserving team, but I'm telling you this. In the first round against the Milwaukee Bucks, you lost Giannis for 2 games. I don't think
fair.
So you lost Giannis for 2 games, and he really wasn't the same. That lower
Jimmy Butler played great.
He did play great. Second round.
Bam Adebayo played great.
Game 6 against the Philadelphia 76ers, you've got less than 5 minutes left in the game. The Sixers are up by 13 points, and they have 6 turnovers in 4.5 minutes. That's a blowaway game. They choked. So and those weren't all forced turnovers by the Heat. Those weren't turnovers that were like, hey, we just made really good plays on the ball and we stole all of them. James Harden had a couple of throwaways. Joel Embiid turns the ball over every other, possession. So it was a blowaway game and a choke game in game 6. And then obviously game 7, you have no confidence in James Harden and Joel Embiid to close that game out. No way. And you know what? I'll give you this.
You mean the Celtics?
No. I'm talking about the 76ers series. In game 7, there was no way that
it was Celtics 76ers in.
No.
It was
they
Celtics.
Both went game. They both went 7 games.
It was Celtics 76ers. They played each other.
Oh, I apologize. So you would have gotten a better series out of that. Now I'll give you this. The Heat they played amazing the first 3 games against the Boston Celtics. That's the best basketball they've played all year long. I'm looking at this now and I'm saying to myself, the East got such a good break, especially with Giannis going out and Joel Embiid winning I think we can all acknowledge Joel Embiid after he won the MVP. He just kind of like sailed it in the playoffs. He was like, I got my MVP award. I'm content with this season. I mean, you even saw it in his press conference after that game 7 loss to the Celtics. It was like, yeah, me and James can't do it all by ourselves. Normally, he's furious. He's got things to prove. It just seemed like as soon as he won his MVP, he was done. The Celtics blew it away. Jason Tatum's had some amazing games and amazing halves during this playoff run, but Jason Tatum is not yet, in my opinion, a top 5 basketball player in the world, and that's because he just can't get it done when it matters the most. I mean, he's got some of this Kirk Cousins syndrome in prime time, where it's just like those games that actually matter. And I'm not talking about last night when he hurt his ankle. That doesn't count. I'm talking.
Yeah, but then you look at the previous series and that game 7 against the 76ers.
He had 1.
He dropped 51.
He had 1.
And he played outstanding in game 6 last year against the Bucks in Milwaukee to win that game, and then went on to have a great game 7 back at home to win the series last year and make it to the finals, where he then didn't play as well against the Warriors and he kind of shrank in that series. But I don't really look at this as there is a degree of Jason Tatum has a very reserved mindset of he goes out there, he plays great. He has nights where he's feeling on and it's locked in and it's like, oh my gosh, he is a phenomenal player. Like he finished 4th in the MVP voting. And when you think about it, you go, oh, he finished 4th in the MVP voting? Oh, okay. Like he might have been a universal and unanimous 4th vote, I think, across the board. And like for almost everyone's selection, it's like, oh yeah, him 4th, perfect. Yeah, that's perfect. Sync. He is a guy that is a tremendous player, but like you said, he's still very young. And people can put whatever credit to it. Like this is his 7th year in the league. And I'm not going to knock him. I'm not going to knock LeBron. I'm not going to knock MJ. They all had a certain maturation process that resulted in the 9th season is when they got it done. And there is a reason for that, and we're seeing it firsthand. It's like, hey, he plays great, and then he's off. And then he plays really good, and then he plays consistent, and then it's like an absolute stinker of a game. And it's like, no. And then the next time, it's like, okay, well, you didn't have any just garbage games. You played pretty consistent throughout, but it's like, you look like regular season Tatum. I need an elevated version of this, and it's like, if you keep doing this, and like that's kind of the problem at this point with Anthony Davis as well. And it's like if Anthony Davis was at least like this, I think the Lakers would actually probably be doing a lot more rapid building around him, knowing that he is more of the lifeline of when he plays well, the team played well. But he's all over the place.
Yeah,
like Anthony Davis is Cam Newton.
Yes,
literally.
The problem with Anthony Davis is, and you're absolutely you hit the nail on the head. Anthony Davis will go out and he'll have a 45 and 18 game, right? 45 points, 18 boards, 6 blocks, but it'll be in game 2 and it'll be a blowout win by 25 points. And while you're looking at that and going, yes, that's an amazing game, it's not when it matters the most. When they need him to perform is game 6, game 7, closeout games where, hey, we either need to shut out the series or we've got to live to fight another day. And then those are the games where he's like 18 points, 9 rebounds.
And I will give him this credit. He does show up on the defensive end of the floor almost every single night.
Incredible defensive player.
And that's honestly where he was a lot more of the pack. But the problem is with the way that the system is designed right now in LA, he has to either be a two-way guy and we have to expect to be like, hey, we'll actually take a little bit more production on the offensive end of the floor rather than the defensive end of the floor, because those nights that you get us 12 points, like we normally lose those games. Yeah. We can't have you score 12 points. And I don't know if it's like, hey, just go and get us a 20 and 10. Like Anthony Davis, can you be a 20-10 guy, please?
The biggest
Please.
problem with AD to the Lakers, and I don't even think you can consider it a failure. I think your expectations of AD were what led you to be a failure. They brought him in when he was brought to LA to be paired with LeBron. He was brought in as a 2. It was then expected of him that as LeBron gracefully aged and was heading closer to retirement and to his 40s, it was okay, it's going to switch. AD is going to become the 1, LeBron's going to become the 2, and the torch will be passed. That's not what happened. I think everyone's realizing now is AD is literally probably, and correct me if I'm wrong, he's one of the greatest 2s that'll ever play the NBA. I mean, without
100%.
question, he'll be a top 5 2 player, but that's all. He's the best 2 in the league, but he's not a number 1. His body's too brittle, and he doesn't have that alpha mentality. Certain nights he's got it, but not every night.
And that was the ultimate issue for the Lakers and what happened. It's, hey, you guys did not start off the season great. You had early injuries. You had early Russell Westbrook issues that caused whatever type of problems as Russell Westbrook normally carries and follows every team he goes to. So you got behind the 8 ball. And at the All-Star break, it was, hey, guys, we now have to play playoff basketball from here in. Yep. Every game counts. Every game matters. We are absolutely going out there to try to win every single night. I don't care what's going on. And Anthony Davis, for a very long stretch, played a lot of basketball games. And that was something that it just kind of finally got towards the end. And it's like you saw it from LeBron. You saw his legs start to give out. You saw it from Anthony Davis start to get worn out. You saw it even from the rest of the team. Some of the younger, their legs gave out because they started playoff basketball back basically in January. It was like, hey, to even make it into playoffs, we kind of have to try. And they made some great moves at the All-Star break that made them essentially, they were a completely different team before the All-Star break than they were after the All-Star break. They were phenomenal after, but they were so phenomenal after because they fixed all their holes and then said, we're all in. Let's go.
You're right. They had to be perfect in order to make the playoffs. And that's the problem with
it. Just
exactly
ran its time.
I completely agree with you.
It was a marathon runner who got a slow start, who then twisted his ankle, and he stumbled on a rock and took a random corner wrong. And it's like he came sprinting down towards the end, and it's like, oh, the ankle finally and his legs finally gave out. It's like you were so close.
I totally get it. And, I think looking at this particular loss to LeBron's legacy it's one that hurts. I mean, it's certainly not the biggest. I think the biggest hurt to your legacy was that finals loss in 2010 to the Dallas Mavericks that completely shattered where I believe he'll end up on the greatest of all time boards. But the way I look at this for LeBron is LeBron now has to seriously consider about what he wants from his basketball career. Because in my personal opinion, and I think he knows this too, there is no more competing for titles as the greatest player on your team. I mean, unless you're going to a team like the Knicks, right? And you're playing with Jalen Brunson, and then you would probably still be the best player on the team. But if you're going to stick with the Lakers,
he can't do that.
No, he can't.
He can't.
No, I completely.
He can't carry a team.
I completely agree with you. He's too old. He's going to be 39 years old next year. Like
I was going to say,
the guy is pushing 40 years old. We've never seen anything like it. Even Jordan at 40, and as much as we love Michael, Jordan was a shell of himself when he was 40 years old, barely averaging 20 points a game. He was like 20.1 or 20.2 points a game. He was chucking up 19 shots a game, making 8 of them. He just wasn't the same player. Couldn't do it on the defensive end. And that's okay. It's father time. It gets all of us. But I'm looking at this, and if I'm LeBron James, I'm saying, I've got to figure out what matters to me now. Does winning another title matter? And if so, join the Warriors. Join a loaded team. Go out, give a team-friendly deal. You're a billionaire, right? He doesn't need money. He was not going to go to the next team for a contract. It's not going to be like, because I want the most guaranteed money that I could possibly get, which it would be for a lot of guys his age, which is like, hey, I still have one more payday in me. But for him, it'll be, where can I go that will give me the best shot to win a title next year? And if the Warriors makes perfect sense. I mean, he doesn't have to be the number one. That's Steph, and Steph's got 2 to 3 years of great prime basketball left. Clay is clearly not a 2 anymore because of his injuries. He's just a spot-up shooter. LeBron loves to distribute the basketball, and Draymond can simply focus on being a defensive player. So you get to be the distributor that you love to be. You don't have to be the number one option, and you can go out and score 20 points a night, get 8 assists and 5 rebounds, and be the very efficient Andrew Wiggins style player. You could be a very easy 2 or 3. So LeBron, I think his time is done in LA. I don't think he's retiring, but I do think his time is done in LA. I think he forgoes that last year on his contract, and I think he has to be shipped out somewhere else.
In terms of the trade and like looking at a starting lineup for the Warriors, you take Andrew Wiggins, replace that with LeBron.
Absolutely.
You take 2 bench guys. You can choose Kuminga, you can choose Poole, you can choose whatever, like kind of relatively pick who you want. Like with the exception of like Gary Payton and maybe one other person. After that, it's like, it doesn't really matter. But it's like, replace LeBron and Andrew Wiggins. If you just swap those 2 guys based off of the starting 5, so you're looking at Steph, Clay, Draymond, LeBron, and Kevon Looney. Who is beating that team?
No one. No, it's not even close. I mean, that's a 60-win team.
Like, whoa.
That's a 60-win. That's a 60, maybe 65-win team.
Here's something that I think LeBron has this initial, like, here, I'm going to go out on this limb. I'm going to go on a random tangent, and I'm going to need you to follow along with me as I join this together. So 73-9 is what the Warriors did, correct? Yes. But they fell short to who in the finals?
LeBron.
So what if LeBron is like, hey, I have 1 year of basketball in me. 1. He joins this team and they go, we're going for 74
and the championship
with a ring
and the championship. Then, I mean, that's
at that point, like I would start making certain. I would give certain acknowledgement.
Here's what I would
right now. I do not. MJ is 1. MJ changed the game of basketball. There's a reason LeBron is chasing numbers still, because he knows internally, hey, MJ was more impactful. MJ was just better during his prime. 6 for 6 is the best. Like, we understand, hey, you got beat before then, but like, okay, compare the big spot. We understand losing in the best, like, hey, you came in second, good job, but you're Phil Mickelson then.
Right.
Phil Mickelson came in second a lot to Tiger.
Yeah.
Sorry. Like, hey, in the biggest moment, you were so close.
Completely agree.
You lost. And that's the easiest way I look at the LeBron thing. But this would be a slight difference, because LeBron doesn't exactly play that many games.
No, he'll end up playing
takes a lot of time
55, 60 games next year. That's all he'll play for the regular season.
And I just have this feeling that, like, even if they were an 8 seed, they need 20 games to play together. And, like, the only reason I say 20 is because, like, Kevin Durant was able to do it in 8. And, like, I think these guys would be a lot better at it, because LeBron is just a great facilitator. And I think the ball movement that the Warriors have, just putting LeBron in only makes it that much better. But they would need time to make it work, because that's the reason that the Warriors actually are so deadly when it comes time for the playoffs, because they do all the same stuff during the season. That's even kind of the same credit that I gave to Boston, but we found out Jaylen Brown can't go left. There is this ball movement that the Warriors have because they play a lot of games together. Most other teams don't have this ball movement and don't have this chemistry because their all-stars never play together anymore. It's like, oh, well, he's resting, so he's playing, and he's getting the star, and like he's just kind of playing iso ball. He's not really doing much. And well, when he comes back, it's kind of your turn and my turn, and then, well, it's still my turn, so I'm hotter today, and so we'll maybe draw some plays for you. But like, that's not the Warriors' game. And so LeBron, in this part of his career where he's not a dominant. I'm going to control every aspect of the game. Man, like for the game of basketball, I want it to happen because it's going like they are going to win because they are going to out basketball everybody.
Yep.
Everybody. Like the Miami Heat out basketballed the Celtics in that series.
Yep.
They did the little things better. They did the more organized, technical things better. And that's the reason that they won the game. Well, they also played harder, I feel like. First 3 games, especially in game 7. And energy was deflated. I mean, you win in a high emotional game like that. You go to any high emotional giant game in any sport, in any history, they lose the next game. Look at the Vikings when they won against the Saints on that giant, the Stephon Diggs walk off. Oh my gosh. Everyone went nuts. Yep. Next thing you know, next game, they got routed. You look at when the Bills, they won a big emotional game. The next game, they got routed. Yep. And that's what happens every time. Super emotional, high antics. You get all amped up. You're super high. You're super there. And then it's like, oh, we got another game.
Yeah. Another series. Yeah. I listen, I get it. I think you made a great point that Golden State runs a very LeBron James friendly offense because basically what they do is this. They say, you're going to make an extra pass throughout the offense. You're going to look for the open man. You're going to make the extra pass, even if you have an open shot. If one of the defenders is cheating closer to you and you can either take the shot where you have 3 feet of space or dish it out to your other primary, shooter who's got 6 feet of space, but you have to make an extra pass, they're going to do it. And LeBron James is always, he's already got the scoring title. He doesn't need to score anymore. If there's 2 things LeBron wants, I think you're absolutely right. Number 1, he wants the 74-9 because then you could say, well, he was on the greatest team that's ever played and he got the ring. He'll never get, because he's not going to get 6. He knows that. He's like, I can't get 6. I can't get 7. The most he can get is 5. So if he gets 5 and then passes Magic Johnson for all-time assists, I know Magic doesn't have it. I know John Stockton's got it, and no one will ever pass that because Stockton's 7,000 above the next guy. It's insane. But if he passes Magic Johnson for Magic's all-time assists, and you've got 5 titles, not only can you claim that you beat the greatest point guard that's ever lived, minus Steph Curry, but now you're looking at, I've beaten Magic Johnson in assists. I've got the most points all time. I've got 5 titles. Then I think you're right. Then the conversation is it Michael and LeBron, or is it Michael and LeBron? It is really, it's like 1 and 1A rather than 1 and 2. Because at this point, I think it's a clear 1 and 2 argument. I think it's Michael 1. I think it's LeBron 2. And you can argue whatever you want. You don't have to have LeBron in it too. I think everyone would say that he's in their top 4 at least. But if LeBron wins another one, gets 5, passes Magic for assists, and gets that 74-9 or 74-8, then I think you're right. I think you have to start having a conversation. Is it Michael 1 and LeBron 1A, or is it possible that LeBron has taken over that number 1 spot entirely? There are certain things that you could argue in either case.
I've got two ways, and I didn't think that we would probably get into the MJ LeBron conversation, but I've been thinking about this conversation a lot lately, and I basically summed it up to be this: Michael Jordan. If you look at, hey, the only way we can compare players, they get compared in their prime. What did they do when they were at their best? What happened when they were on the court? What happened in the rest of the league? What was going on when teams played them? What went on in the world with their interaction? But then ultimately, like, their impact on the game. MJ has that blown out of the water. When he was in his prime, there was a reason he won. He was the best, with the best mindset, absolutely determined and focused, and did not care. Back-to-back three-peats. And if you can squeeze an argument in there where it's like he technically won 6 straight because he didn't play a full season in the middle. Like, because he was playing baseball and like he missed, like I wouldn't count. Like you go, he didn't play the whole season. Like, can't count it. 2 3-peats with essentially the same team, just different names. The same exact player, but they did it twice. And he was the reason for it. So, like, I understand what Scottie Pippen said, and he can say whatever he wants to say. He was a part of it. But, like, he's sitting at home with 6 rings on his finger because that guy named MJ brought his ass there. We saw what the Bulls did when MJ was gone versus him there. So Pippen can't make that argument. And like the whole like, hey, pointing at the shoe and come back. Yeah, that was a cry for help. That's literally Anthony Davis when LeBron is not playing. Correct. He's like, please, I can't do it. I can't do it myself. You're my savior. Come here. But for LeBron, the only argument you can make for LeBron to be a better player than Jordan is you go, he's just a better all-around basketball player. It's like, okay, cool. Like, congrats. You are more technically sound and you achieved more statistics by doing it over a focused time, and you knew exact targets that you could chase each season for each game and each chance you had an opportunity in. So it's like you've known all of his numbers your entire career. You've been chasing those numbers your entire career. You've been going after those his entire career. And yet we want to go, oh, well, it's like, no, duh. LeBron's literally chased after each one of those statistics, every single one of them. And so it's like, well, it took him how long to get this one? Well, it took him how long to get this one? It's like, there's some that he hasn't broken. There's some he hasn't come close to. And it's like, he still doesn't have enough finals. He still doesn't have enough MVPs. He doesn't have enough defensive MVPs. He doesn't have enough scoring titles. Like, there are certain trophies that MJ just still has him in that have more relevance. Like,
absolutely. And going back to your point about overall basketball player, there's one argument that I can shut that down with.
The best year 20 player in the NBA.
The best. I hate the argument. He's the best. He's a better overall basketball player. You know who else was a better overall basketball player than Shaquille O'Neal? Tracy McGrady. Tracy McGrady was a better passer, was a better ball handler, was a better shooter, was arguably a better defensive player. Who would you rather have?
Not Jaylen Brown and his handles. I can tell you that much.
But that's my point. We could get into all those arguments about MJ and LeBron, and I like I said,
like, oh, he did more, and it's like, yeah, he's 6'9".
Yeah, there's a lot of different arguments, and it is fun to go back and forth with people. We are going to move on, though, to the NFL very briefly, because one of my favorite things that I saw, and I sent this to you last week, there was a list that came out of the top 10 most overrated quarterbacks since the year 2000. So we took a look at it, and I think at the very top of the list was Tim Tebow.
which is when I saw it, that's actually my only gripe, because Tim Tebow won a playoff game.
I know. I think Tim Tebow belongs at the top of that list, but not for the reason because I think it was an overcasted shadow, like because of how dominant Tebow was in college. Everyone was like, "Oh my God, this is
dominant in college with a college team."
Correct.
Of just
the expectations.
I was going to say killers, but some people might take it too figuratively.
No,
AKA Aaron Hernandez.
Oh Jesus!
I was going to say he had a team full of killers.
Well, what I also think happened was when Tebow declared for the draft, everyone, including all of the people that scouted quarterbacks and like determined where they were going to go or where they should go, projected in the NFL draft, every single one of them said Tebow is a 3rd or 4th round QB. He's not a 1st round guy. He's not a 2nd round guy. And then the Denver Broncos were like, we would like to disagree with that. We're going to go up and take him at 24. Like, so that Tebow can't control where he's drafted. So I think he got an unfair rap, although I do believe, yes.
Hey, I say the same thing about Mitch. Sure. I say the same thing about Mitch Trubisky.
Without question.
Question. It's not his fault the Bears are idiots.
Correct.
Like, you look at it, yeah. If you look at his before draft grade, and like where he was projected to go versus what he got picked. Like, I think you should look at, hey, where were you supposed to go versus how you did? Because if you said, hey, Mitch, you're most likely like a mid 2, maybe early 3rd guy, and it's like, okay, you did very well for that.
I'm willing to go out on a limb. And I'm willing to say this: if they would have drafted, let's say she still fell to the Bears, right? Let's say the Bears drafted somebody else, and they took
Even if they drafted him in the 2nd round,
if they drafted him in the 2nd or the 3rd round, Mitch Trubisky would probably still have a spot on the Bears roster.
They gave up so much for him. They literally gave up so much to move one pick, and he wasn't even going to be taken. Not only was he going to be there at 3, he was going to be there in the 2nd round to take them. He probably would have been there in the 3rd for them to take him. But yet they traded away 3 picks to move one spot to get a guy who was literally going to be there for at least the 2nd round pick. And I'm just... how these guys have jobs making a decision like that on that, like, there was nothing that told you Mitch is the guy. There is not a single play. There's not a single game where you look at him at North Carolina in the one season that he had as a starter and you go, that's the guy. Holy shit. This dude is such a good QB. He's going to be here forever, man. He's going to change the face of our franchise, and we're going to move up from 3 to 2 because he's that good. And yet those guys had jobs in an NFL organization and made that mistake. And it's like,
I agree.
How?
You're hitting the nail on the head with it. I mean,
a draft with Deshaun Watson in it, first off, and second being like, yes, people make these like claims about Patrick Mahomes, and like we all know, like I watched him play live at Tech. Trust me, the dude he wasn't accurate in college, but he would make these plays where he threw the ball 60 yards down the field with like a relative flick of his wrist, and you just watched it come out. You're like, holy cow, like that's different.
Yeah.
But yet you then see it, like I'd even say the same excuse. Like I've seen Baker play live and like seeing that. And so it's like, that guy's not an NFL talent.
Yeah.
Like, yet he still circulates because why? He won a Heisman Trophy, which is the reason why the Broncos bit on Tim Tebow.
Correct. So making a long story short and going out into a roundabout way, I decided that it would be fun for us on our first inaugural show back here after a month gone to make a top 5 list of quarterbacks that are playing right now that are very, very overrated. So here's what I want to do. I don't want to go through the entire list all at once. I would like to go through one at a time with brief little reasons as to why we put them in that spot. Can't go too much because we're going to be here forever. But if we give each quarterback 2 to 3 minutes to talk about it, we should be out of here in about 20 minutes. So let's start with number 5. I'm going to give you mine, and then I'll ask you yours, and then we'll debate them a little bit. So number 5, I have Tua. I have Tua Tagovailoa as my number 5 most overrated. And I should preface this by also saying number 1 is the most overrated. That's how we determine this. So the number 1 person I have in my list is the most overrated quarterback. So number 1, I have Tua. And the reason I have Tua is because Tua, I mean, I know everyone was talking about how amazing, like, oh my God, he was number 1 in QBR through week 9. And until he got hurt, he was one of the leading MVP candidate, guys. He was unbelievable. But I'm going to tell you this. I like to take out their worst game and I like to take out their best game to give you a very accurate depiction of where I believe they fall talent-wise and production-wise. So you can't look at their very best game and you can't look at their very worst game. You've got to look at everything else. I think that's fair. Outside of Tua's best game, which was week 2 against the Baltimore Ravens, where he threw for 6 touchdowns, against teams with winning records, they went 3-3. Tua went 3-3 with 9 touchdowns and 5 interceptions and a QBR rating of under 84. So it was 83.6, which is
average.
Exactly. You look at it and you go,
Played solid. Good. Showed up to the office 8 to 5. And nothing great.
That is outside of against teams that were with winning records. Tua went 3-3 outside of that, and I'm not even counting the game against the Packers where he looked like he didn't even belong on an NFL roster, where he threw for 1 touchdown and 4 picks. But that's neither here nor there. That's his worst game. Out of that Baltimore Ravens game where he just went absolutely ballistic, threw for 462 yards, 6 touchdowns, 2 picks. 3-3 against winning teams, 9 touchdowns, 5 interceptions with a QBR of 83.6. Very average. And that's why I have Tua as my number 5 overrated quarterback. He's just not, he's accurate. That's what Tua is. He's just an accurate quarterback.
That's fair. I've got Deshaun Watson as number 5 on mine. And it's not the fact that it's in terms of people are. I strictly put him at 5 based on the reason it's like people aren't thinking he's going to play great. People are thinking he's going to play average. But I think the Browns might literally be in a tank for Caleb situation at Thanksgiving. Like the Browns have a very legitimate chance to be a bad team, like always, like we've known the Browns to be. And they might seriously end up in a situation where like they're one of those teams that might be in the mix where it's like, hey, it's December. We're not very good. Are we going to be like a 8 pick, or are we going to try to like get back to Cleveland specialty and get the old number 1 pick coming back home to us and take Caleb Williams and ruin his NFL career too? So that's the reason I've got Deshaun Watson on there. Like, I think people are expecting him to play like semi close to what he had back in Houston. And like, I think he'll show like flashes of it.
Yeah. He'll have a game.
Like he's going to, yeah, exactly. He'll have a game where it's like, wow, like Deshaun Watson looked great. But then like you look at his, like you said, if you take out the best and the worst, you're going to look at his season. You're going to be like, oh, yeah, I guess you could have left Jacoby Brissett in there. Like, that's the type of situation I think it's going to be, and the Browns are not going to be very good.
Yeah.
And it's seriously like tank for Caleb. I think they're a dark horse team.
You are absolutely correct. Deshaun's going to have 1 or 2 games where he throws for 345 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks, and has a completion percentage of 68%. Like, it's going to be an amazing game. But I think you're right.
If you remember what Colin used to talk about, he had to take a bus to a game. Back then, he was taking so many hits, and I think like his time off from the game is a certain aspect where it's like taking time off might hurt. Taking time off was also great to heal his body, but the time off also was probably like, hey, your body probably went into like this retroactive like, hey, are we done?
Yeah,
like hey. We've been in war for years.
Yes.
Like, are we cool? Like, can we like start fixing stuff, and can we start like
let's not forget 2 years off. I mean, you're also getting older. You're getting older. Like, your body can't process the same. I mean, I get it. You weren't taking hits for 2 years, but you also weren't taking hits for 2 years. So your body's not getting acclimated to getting, I mean, you can speak better than anybody. When you started playing football again and you were really taking shots and, making that full body contact, like, I'm sure, and you're 24, you're going to be 25. Yeah.
Pain.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm sure he was looking at it like, God, it hurts more. The bruises are deeper. The muscle pain is deeper. I don't bounce back up like it did when I was 22 or 23.
And it's
so
just,
I completely agree with you.
He played behind bad offensive lines. He took a lot of extra hits. Like his body is at a different level of, once he stopped playing, there's a certain catch up that starts to happen. And I think that might impact him. So like where he looked rusty in game, like he only played like 6 games last year. Like, yes, he looked rusty, but it's also like, that's like, I think some of that is more than just rust. Like, I think that's also what he might be.
That just might be who he is now. Yeah. All right. So let's move on to number 4. Number 4, I think you're going to appreciate this. Aaron Rodgers, new quarterback of the New York Jets. And here's why. We're looking at Aaron Rodgers last year, 25 touchdowns, 10 picks, easily the worst of his career since his rookie season. Actually, believe it or not, it's more from his second year, but besides the point, which is basically his first full rookie season. Aaron Rodgers, and all I've been hearing ever since he's made it to the Jets are Super Bowl contenders. They're Super Bowl contenders with their roster that they've pump the brakes. Timeout. Aaron Rodgers is not the same Aaron Rodgers of 3 or 4 years ago. You are looking at a guy who's a lot more like Kirk Cousins than he is like MVP Aaron Rodgers. You're going to get a guy that in the middle of the season, Aaron's going to go on a tear, and I completely give this to you. He's going to have 6 games in a row where he's averaging 260 yards a game. He's got 13 touchdowns, no picks, and a QBR of damn near perfect. And everyone's going to be like, oh my God, Aaron for MVP. This is the greatest Jets quarterback in the history of the world. But we're forgetting that Aaron Rodgers has done one thing consistently his entire career: choke in big moments. Do you think that it was Green Bay's fault that Aaron Rodgers couldn't deliver in the NFC Championship games or in the playoff games against the 49ers? No. It's Aaron Rodgers. He's always been a regular season player. He's always been a great regular season player. He's the Clippers when they had Blake Griffin, Chris Paul, and DeAndre Jordan. Always a 50-win team, but can never get past the first round or the second round.
What is his playoff record? 11-10?
It's not good.
I'm pretty sure I think it's 11-10.
For what people have called him. And for a while before Patty, he was the greatest quarterback talent that's ever played the game. Talent, not the greatest guy. They always gave
3 MVPs or 4 MVPs?
4 MVPs. 4
MVPs. 1 Super Bowl MVP, and an 11-10 playoff record.
So you could argue that outside of his Super Bowl year, he is not even an average quarterback in the playoffs. He's a below average quarterback in the playoffs. And look at last 500. Year. Look at Latin. Not if you take out the Super Bowl year, then you would look at it and you'd go, he's what, 8-10?
Well, that's 3 games. Yeah.
8-10. So I mean, below average. So that's what I'm saying is that you look at it and you go and look at last year against the Lions. Perfect thing. You were
winning. You're in. And not only his last pass. An interception.
Think about what was perfectly placed for Aaron in that game. You were at home against the Lions, and the only thing you had to do was win the game.
2-2. People in GOAT's eyes. Tom Brady's last pass as a Patriot, pick 6. Last pass for Aaron Rodgers, pick in the Lions. Not only both for them to lose their seasons.
So that is, I'm not going to say too much more.
So I think Aaron Rodgers might be the GOAT.
And also, the last point on this, look at the division last year.
Wait, hold on. I was going to say, if you take out Aaron Rodgers' stats against the Bears, and what do you think Aaron Rodgers' numbers would look like if you took out his numbers just against the Bears and the Lions? I would wonder what his stats look like.
So it was 25-10. I would say probably 21 in
his career.
Oh yeah, great point.
Career,
great point. He's
because think about it. He gets 4 free games a year,
basically. But also to my point, looking at that division last year, the division that he's in now is harder than the one he was in this last year, and he went 8-9 last year. Now he's got a better team. I'll give you that. The Bills are the best team in that division. The worst team.
I don't know. The Dolphins are and the Patriots.
But look at. I mean, are the Patriots better than the Bears? And they're the worst team in the division. Yes, they are. Come on,
I don't even start with the Bears beat the Patriots last year. The Bears beat the Patriots last year.
Any team can beat any team on any given Sunday. Look at their overall record. Bears went on a 10-game losing streak.
Exactly. Say that again. You know why? Because Justin Fields is trash.
All right. Go on to your number 4. Let's hear it.
My number 4, someone that's actually not expected. I'm going to go also into the curve on this one. Brock Purdy. Okay. Brock Purdy. Here's the thing. I'm a Brock Purdy fan. I think Brock Purdy can absolutely sling it. But here's the problem. Dude just had Tommy John. So not only are we like, hey, he gets a chance to throw a ball here in the next couple weeks. like hasn't thrown a ball in months. He's going to literally be like at the start of training camp being first throwing a football, and people are like, Brock Purdy's going to be great. He's going to bounce back. And it's like, I don't think you know how Tommy John works. Like, yes, you feel like semi-invincible and you're good to go, but there's going to be a sizable gap here with this type of throwing injury that he's had. There's not really that many pitchers that get Tommy John surgery and suddenly turn into a better player. Like there is a certain acclimation that happens. There are some guys that bounce back and play up to that level again, but statistically showing, I don't think it's going to happen. And like, I think it's enough of a thing where it's like, hey, you're going to come kind of down to earth. Like you're undersized, you're slightly under athletic. You're a pretty good thrower of the football, but you're not special. He's going to fit in the system, and it's Kyle Shanahan, so he's fine. But it's more like, hey, dude, you had Tommy John. Like,
yep.
Duh.
I agree with you.
But yet everyone's like, oh, the 49ers and Brock Purdy is so amazing. I'm like, he had Tommy John.
Yeah. So it's funny you mentioned it's funny you mentioned Brock Purdy. He'll make his way on our list here very shortly on my end. But anyway, going into number 3, a pick that I think you are going to be agreeing with the most out of all of my 5 picks. Because coming in at number 3, the quarterback for your Chicago Bears, Justin Timothy Fields. All right, so here's what I got to say. Justin has shown amazing strides in the playmaking aspect.
I was going to say, don't say strides in throwing the football.
No.
Lie. Don't lie.
In terms of playmaking abilities, in just being an athlete on the football field, Justin Fields has proven he's one of the best in the NFL. That is indisputable. You can go watch any highlight tape of last year's season, and in one game, you can find one play where you're like, holy crap, maybe one other guy can do that. 2 other guys, Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, can do that in the entire NFL outside of the running back or wide receiver position. But dead last in passing attempts, dead last in yards per game, dead last in total QBR. It wasn't good. It wasn't a good year throwing the football for Justin Fields. Now, could you make the argument that the play calling from Matt Eberflus and Luke Getsy they had basically said, we're scrapping this year in terms of like throwing the football. We're just trying to see what you can do in terms of how we view you as a quarterback stylistically. It's possible. But here's what I'll say. I have seen so many different lists where they're like, Justin Fields is going to be the next guy. Pump the brakes. I think if we can make him Jalen Hurts or a slightly worse version of Jalen Hurts, we'd be very okay with that. Because Jalen Hurts took that next leap and he went to the Super Bowl. I don't even think we're that close. I think what you need to see, Justin, just show me that you can throw for 300 yards a game one time. Please, just once. I need you to average over 200 yards a game in the air. That's what I need from you. I need less than 10 interceptions. I need 20 touchdowns. Just please, for the love of God, don't be what you were last year. We don't need you running the ball 13 times a game. We need you throwing the ball 26 or 27 times a game. Justin Fields at number 3.
Justin Fields didn't even make my list because Justin Fields is trash. And you know why Justin Fields is trash? Is because Justin Fields is the next version of the most current Ohio State quarterback in the NFL, a.k.a. Terrell Pryor 2.0, Braxton Miller 2.0, whatever you want to make an appearance on. Like, tell me the last great Ohio State quarterback. None. Exactly.
CJ Stroud.
Go to the previous guy before Justin Fields that threw for 50 touchdowns in a season.
Dwayne Haskins.
And is now playing in his I'm talking about year before that. And that guy is he's playing in the XFL. And it's like, God. Justin Fields is going to be working for the snack bar here pretty soon. Like, the Bears. if Justin Fields plays at any level like he's played, like he's shown us he can play, aka back-to-back 7-game losing streaks, then the Bears are numero one in the house for Caleb Williams. They should just go ahead and start printing the jerseys now. Like they got it. They got the guy. Go ahead.
Who's at your 3?
Josh Allen is at my 3.
Wow.
But here's my reason why. They're saying that this is back to, hey, what was he from college and where is he at now? He's still in the process of building up to stuff. He still shrinks in big games. And like, I can't give him too much credit, but it's like last year was the chance. I don't think the Bills got any better in this offseason. I don't think the Bills are getting any better going forward. I think he shrinks there's a certain point, like after December, where he doesn't really exactly play that much better. I think he was a completely different player in the previous season. That Dabble had him playing phenomenally well. And like you saw actual transitions. And like last year, he looked a lot closer to what he did coming out of Wyoming, which was super erratic, doesn't know how to throw a football with any touch or any feel, and is super inaccurate and is just back to being an athlete and being better. Well, that doesn't work. And so hey, it's the Bills' turn to win the Super Bowl. Hey, it's the Bills' turn to do this. And it's like, I don't think Josh Allen like has played really that consistent. Like, yes, he's a great player. I think he's absolutely phenomenal, but it's like they're trying to keep knocking him up higher without him actually winning or doing stuff. Like people have him as 3 right now. And it's like, I don't have Josh Allen at 3. Like Josh Allen is at like my 5 or 6. And I think that's the reason why, like, that's my reasoning why of like Hayes kind of overrated is it's like Hayes at 3 level of overrated because it's like, hey, you're higher on the list than you should be. And I think this next season, you're not going to play very well. So it's kind of like this is my own personal, like, hey, I think Josh Allen's going to regress this season, like take.
Yeah.
And that's why he's at 3. It's not really anything like, oh, he's just terrible. Like, I just think that he's lost touch.
We're not talking about
this. I think Sean McDermott is a poor coach, but like, I just think he's going to regress next season. Like, I think the Bills are going to be good, but they're not going, like, he's not going to play to the level that they're holding him to.
I like that you put, I'm not saying I like that you put Allen at 3, but I like your reasoning for it because I have a player coming up on my list that is going to get a lot of pushback for who I believe is a very overrated quarterback.
It's like Super Bowl or bust.
Yeah.
It's literally Super Bowl or bust. And like, that's what I don't think he's even going to make it to the Super Bowl. Like, I don't think he's going to get there. Like, I think he has another early exit in the playoffs.
I agree too. I think they win one playoff game like they did last year and then they're out again. Moving on to my number 2, a guy you've already mentioned, Mr. Brock Purdy. Now,
okay.
but I'm going to go with slightly.
Why do you think?
You were talking about going into the season as to like, hey, he's just coming off of Tommy John. We have no idea what that elbow is going to look like. That all makes sense. Here's why I look at Brock Purdy as the most overrated. I was trying to think of who Brock Purdy reminded me of because there was a very specific sports story that reminded me of Brock Purdy, and I couldn't put my finger on it. I was like, who the fuck is it? And then it hit me like 2 weeks ago. I was sitting in bed late at night. I woke up in the middle of the night, and I go, holy shit, it's Jeremy Lin. He is literally the Jeremy Lin of football. Jeremy Lin was undrafted. Brock Purdy's Mr. Irrelevant. Very last guy to come in. No one's expecting him to do anything. Comes in and completely rocks the house for, in Jeremy Lin's case, it was like 11 games. For Brock Purdy, it was 8 games, half the season. Brock Purdy goes in and plays lights out football until he gets injured, and then he's done. And then everyone was like, after the season that Jeremy Lin had that breakout Linsanity season, everyone was like, Jeremy Lin is the point guard of the future. I can't wait to see what he does outside of the New York Knicks. And it just was like, there's a reason he's playing in Taiwan, right? Like, there's a reason he's getting 50-point triple doubles in Taiwan. Like
for the Guangdong Tigers.
Exactly, for the Guangdong Tigers. There's a reason he's doing that because he wasn't that good in the first place. Anybody on this earth can have 15 minutes of fame. I think Brock Purdy is a great story. I think Brock Purdy throws a nice football. He does. He throws a very nice football. He's got a great spiral. But if you look at the players around him, George Kittle, Christian
oh,
McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey.
second best, if
Deebo
not the best
Samuel.
roster, second best roster in the league. Like
But you got
1 or
Deebo,
1A.
That's just on like skill positions. Then you're looking at their offensive line. Then you're looking at their defense. Like, you mean to tell me you think Brock Purdy won all 8 of those games when he went 8-0? You're kidding. He maybe won 2 of them. So
better overall roster than
Brock
the
Purdy,
team that they were playing for 6 of those
if
weeks.
you put Brock Purdy on, I'm not even going to go a bad team. I'm going to go a mediocre team.
I was going to say, Bears.
If you put Brock Purdy on the New Orleans Saints, they'd be a 4 or 5 win
Hello,
team.
Caleb Williams.
He's Andy Dalton.
Like, Jameis Winston, is that you?
Exactly. So Brock Purdy is easily the second most overrated quarterback in the league. I'm going to say, what's your number 2?
Dak Prescott.
Oh,
Dak Prescott.
Okay.
Everyone loves to hype up Dak. They're like, oh, the Cowboys, they're so good. Man, the Cowboys have a chance to get D-Hop. And if they just get D-Hop, then it's there. Man, the Cowboys, they just got a roster. They got a bunch of ballers over there. The Cowboys are so... The Cowboys are a franchise with the light-skinned, block-headed Kirk Cousins who can move at quarterback. Let's stop arguing about Dak as a Super Bowl quarterback.
He's a light-skinned Kirk Cousins.
He's a light-skinned blockhead. Blockhead. Boy's got a giant dome
square
on top of his shoulders. Muscle Bob SquarePants over there. just got out of prison. So this is the situation for the Cowboys. You're right. They do have some good players. It's like they've got a tremendous player in Micah Parsons. It's like he's good for 0 points a game. They've got Trevon Diggs, who's guaranteed 14 points for the other team, like at least, dependent on who they're playing. Like, you're right. So okay, he might get you a half a point a game because he might get you one pick that might lead to a field goal because you think Dak is going to score? Come on. Also, he's now injury prone, and you know which quarterback is the best quarterback? The quarterback that is available. And Dak, at this point, is not that available. He gets just lingering injuries, and it's not something that you exactly predict for, but it's something that start to stack up. You don't exactly ever get healthier. And they lost some decent pieces. They're really not as good as everyone thinks that they are. The NFC East, I think people really think the Giants are going to regress. I think the Giants are actually going to make a flip and a jump next year where the Giants are going to be better than they were the year before, just based off of second year in the system and guys are in a good culture. Brian Daboll brings a good culture, and that's the reason the Giants are winning games. The same reason the Heat just made it to the finals are the reason the Giants are going to be back in the same position they were in last year. The Cowboys, on the other hand, don't have a great culture, don't have a great system, have a terrible play caller now in Mike McCarthy, and just lost a tremendous play caller that is now going to be calling plays for what I hope they can make something happen and they don't turn into the Chargers. But Justin Herbert has a real chance to blow up this year based off of Moore being his play caller. And so that being gone for Dak, I think Zeke being gone actually makes them a better team, but they're not better than anybody. Their roster's not they have guys that are good in irrelevant positions. Period. So, and Dak is not good enough to carry the team.
You're right.
And he's injury prone.
You're absolutely right. I wouldn't have put Dak on this list because I think
people say they're going to win the Super Bowl.
It's more. I think that's more Cowboys fans' delusions.
There are legit people that are saying that Cowboys are probably the best. They have a chance to beat the Eagles in the East and go on and win a Super Bowl.
No,
they really think that they're random 2-guy pickup and they lost some good weapons.
Do you want to know honestly what I think is going to happen to the Cowboys this year? They're a 9-8 team. This is a team that is going to be 500 basically the entire year. They're going to win a game. They're going to lose a game. You know what they're going to do? They're going to do what they do every single year. They're going to beat up on the bad teams.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say that
they're going to beat the Commander. They're going to beat the brakes off the Commanders twice.
Dak is going to be typical Dak stat padding Prescott.
Yes, absolutely. But you mentioned somebody in your last little rant there, which is a perfect segue into my number one most overrated quarterback in the NFL. It's going to get some pushback.
Who?
My most overrated quarterback, Justin Herbert, is the most overrated quarterback in the NFL. Now, here's why. This was a tough decision for me to make. I love Justin Herbert. I think Justin Herbert has the potential to be the number 2 quarterback in the NFL going forward, better than Burrow, better than Josh Allen, better than Lamar, better than all of them, except for Mahomes.
Hold on. Before I let you get further in and in what he's done with yes, he's had great talent, but a lot of that great talent has been injured, and he's dealing with literal incompetence at his coaching staff. And also, somehow the Chargers going Charger.
I'm telling you right now. So I went back and I looked at it, and the first thing that I thought was, you're right. The first thing that I thought of, I was like, there's no way I can have Justin on this list. But then I went back and I looked at it. Can you tell me over the last 2.5 seasons? So I looked at the last 40 games. Do you know who led the league in check down throws?
I mean,
I'm going to give you a hint. It wasn't Tom Brady.
I was more or less going to think Tua Tagovailoa.
Nope.
Or another person. Ooh, well, no, Drew Brees has been out of the league for too long. I was going to say Michael Thomas catches a lot of slants. I mean, he's got Austin Eckler. He's got Austin Eckler, though.
He's got Austin Eckler. He's got Keenan Allen, who granted is hurt a lot. Mike Williams, guess who's
hurt a lot.
Also hurt a lot. I understand his head coaching position. Brandon Staley's a doofus. He has no idea what he's doing. He's going to be out after this year. But the way I look at this is this. We have built up everything that I've heard from Justin Herbert was, oh my God, he did this and he threw for this many 300-yard games, more than Mahomes, did this better than Mahomes and this better than Mahomes. You know what he hasn't done better than any of those guys, including Burrow and Josh Allen? Win. He hasn't won. He hasn't won anything. In fact, the only time he could have proven that he was better than those guys, he went up against Trevor Lawrence and
the Prince.
And he basically shit the bed. So, and I'm not saying it was entirely his fault, right? Because the defense has to stop Trevor Lawrence, but
because the Prince showed up and said, "I'm number 2, baby."
So here is what I know: Justin Herbert, and I'm not saying it's a fully big. It's not a fully drawn comparison yet, but I'm starting to see similarity. No, I'm starting to see similarities. That he might be Russell Westbrook. Like he might just be like Russell Westbrook in his prime.
Stat padding, just looking really, really good in irrelevant games and just going absolutely ape shit on numbers and throwing some stuff out there. And then you play some good teams and you play average, but you made some pretty big mistakes. And then your good numbers come at the end of the game when you're losing and you catch up. Oh, damn. Because there's a lot of quarterbacks that play like that in the NFL, kind of like Dak Prescott.
All I'm
saying,
when Justin Herbert goes out and plays against a team like who's going to suck this year in the AFC? When they play many. Okay, so they're maybe the Jags are not the Jags. The Colts are going to be bad. When he goes out and plays the Colts and he throws for 350 yards and 4 touchdowns, and everyone's like, Justin Herbert. Just remember what when it's crunch time and you have to deliver, you have to win the game. And Justin Herbert goes out and throws 22 passes. 22 of 40 for 195 yards, 1 touchdown and 1 pick. And everyone's like, well, damn, it's that head coach that sucks. You got to look at it and say, no, Justin.
It's literally the same thing as like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown right now. Like, hey, they score under 20 points in a game 7, and everyone's like, Joe Mazzulla can't coach.
That's my point. Is
Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum can't hit a shot, but Joe Mazzulla with the worst coaching I've ever seen.
It is not a fully drawn comparison yet, because I do think that looking at pure talent-wise, Justin Herbert, just like Russell Westbrook, is one of the greatest we've ever seen. Russell, to like the ability to do it all at the quarterback position, Justin's got it. Russell had it. But I don't want this to be like, I don't want this to become, you see what I'm saying? It's not fully drawn yet. And I'm talking about Russell. I'm talking about OKC.
He literally has this year. It's literally this year. This is like, hey, if you don't play well this year, you're overrated.
This is
if you do
MVP
not play well this year. Yes. If you do not play well, it's on you. And
you're officially
Herbert is
overrated.
Trash. Yes. My number one, Kyler Murray. Most overpaid scrub in the league. You want to talk about arguable, like, hey, who's in the biggest competition for Caleb Williams? Arizona Cardinals, front runner in the clubhouse. Like, they are numero one right now. And like I said, we'll see how poor Justin Fields plays this year. But Kyler Murray is the reason the Cardinals have been trash. He's going to be the reason they continue to be trash, because you look at it this year, they're saying he's probably going to miss half of, potentially the entire season.
Yeah,
still based off of injury.
Last time I saw it, I read 9 games minimum. They just might tank for Caleb.
Which you really think, like, for as much as he was a phenomenal player, he was an absolutely phenomenal player at the University of Texas. As a huge shout out to a good buddy, Austin Ragland, which, is probably his favorite player maybe ever. But Colt McCoy, you think Colt McCoy is going to lead the Arizona Cardinals to any type of victories for those 9 games?
Maybe 2.
Exactly. 2-7. And here comes 5'6" Kyler Murray coming to the game off of a knee injury, which is probably going to make him a step slower. He's probably not going to, be as accurate with the football like normal, because he can't see over his linemen. How many times do I have to make this argument? I don't know what NFL GMs need to hear this from me. Defensive coordinators need to hear this from me. Kyler Murray throws, if you are looking at the pocket, you take the outside of the tackle on the right and the outside of the tackle on the left. He throws on the outside part of the field. He throws off of the right tackle to the sideline. He throws off of the left tackle to the sideline, unless it is a in-timing 3-step ball is out to a place throw. Other than that, he does not throw in the middle of the field because he cannot see the middle of the field. I just don't, I literally cannot comprehend. It is not that hard to stop. When Kyler Murray plays like trash, all teams do is they line up a wide 7 or a wide 9 by DNs. They go straight up the field without fully rushing, because they then stop and don't let him. They just keep him in the pocket. They're like, go ahead, throw, Kyler, please throw. He's 5'6". People want to make the argument, maybe 5'8". He got measured at whatever he did at the combine. I will still make the argument that he's smaller than Bryce Young. He is tiny. And yet everyone's like, Kyler Murray is so good. He's such a great athlete. He can throw the football so well. And it's like, again, first off, availability. He's going to miss almost the entire season, at least half the season. Next, he still hasn't won shit. He hasn't. Literally nothing. He doesn't put up great stats. He doesn't put up just tremendous numbers. He doesn't make crazy plays. What he does is he runs around like a little toddler with the football looking way too big for his own body, and he'll like make a miraculous play, and it's like, woohoo, the Cardinals lost 34-21. Like, good job, Kyler. Like, you looked so good on that one play. Like, who gives a shit? He hasn't won anything. They overpaid for him for no reason. He is a huge drama. And anyway, he's so busy playing Call of Duty, you can literally look at his numbers on the XP weekends versus the numbers that are not double XP weekends, and he plays better on the non-double XP weekends. It is a trackable stat. He plays worse when Call of Duty's running a hot streak. The boy doesn't watch film. He doesn't pay attention. He's a head case. And yet, everyone wants to say he's a great player because he made some plays in college. And it's like, yes, he got to play under Lincoln Riley, which we watched him build Baker Mayfield and do the exact same thing. It was literally rinse, repeat. Back-to-back Heisman, back-to-back number 1 overall picks, back-to-back scrubs, back-to-back non-NFL long-term players, back-to-back franchise ruined for 5 years' time because you're the number 1 overall pick. And everyone's like, well, since you're the number 1 overall pick, we got, a 5-year deal as, first overall, and we're going to go ahead and pick up that option. But instead of picking up the option on the 5th year, they went ahead and signed him to a giant contract after year 3 when he hadn't shown anything. And now where are we at?
The most
sitting
overrated.
On the sideline, most overrated quarterback in the league, as everyone's like, Kyler Murray is so great. He's in my top 10. How?
Mic drop.
Who's your honorable mention? Because I know you have an honorable mention in there. So you're little hey, there's someone who could be a potential add-in to this list. Since I went on my tangent there.
Well, after
just throw the name drop out there.
It was Dak Prescott. That was my honorable mention. And I went back and forth between Derek Carr and Dak Prescott, and only Derek Carr, not because I believe going into last season, Derek Carr was probably on the underrated quarterback list. After this year, though, having Devontae Adams and still underperforming tremendously in that division. And not even it wasn't even that they underperformed and lost. They underperformed and they sucked. It wasn't even like they were close. They were
the Broncos, and the Broncos were terrible.
Could you imagine if the Raiders went up against the Chiefs twice and the Chargers twice, and they were both shootout games, 38-33. Derek Carr in those games was averaging 315 yards a game, 3 touchdowns.
No, he played like trash.
Right. Yeah. He just didn't play well. So I went back and forth between Dak and Derek Carr. And then I looked at Dak's stat line and I was like, oh, led the league in interceptions. And everyone's still like top 10 QB. No, it's Dak Prescott. He's my honorable mention. I'd probably put him at 6. Who's your honorable mention? Is it Justin Fields?
No. What did I tell you? Justin Fields isn't on this list because Justin Fields is certified trash. Kyler Murray almost got to that point. I almost deemed him as trash and not even overrated. But no, Jalen Hurts.
Oh, no.
Jalen Hurts. And you know why? For the same reason you gave for Brock Purdy. Jalen Hurts played on, if not the best roster, the second best roster in the NFL last year.
Yep.
And now he just lost both of his coordinators.
Yep.
And he lost a couple other people. And it's like, yeah, they brought some guys back, but it's like,
not all of them.
Not all. And both coordinators leaving, that's going to cause internal stuff that you don't even really know is going on.
Roster running back, yep.
The lingo is going to be slightly different. It's going to be slightly different play calls. It's going to be slightly different system. It's going to be a slightly different method. It's all going to be slightly thrown off. And I don't believe you go to a Super Bowl and lose and turn around and bounce back and show back up. I mean, you do if you're the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. But I think Jalen is a guy where, yes, he is a solid football player. But the problem is too many people are like, is Jalen Hurts the second best quarterback in the NFL? And it's like, no, he's not. He's he's a slightly better than average, accurate quarterback.
But he's top 10. He's fringe top 10.
I'm hey, he's a 12-8 guy.
I'd probably put him in the top 10, but I probably put him at 9.
You're better than average. You're not great. You are good. And so he is somewhere between, you said 9. I might even go down to 7.
Yep.
7 to 12. You got your 5 spots. Boom. There you go. You fall somewhere in here because it just is what it is. So.
Wow, there's a lot to unpack there. Well, a longer episode than normal, but that's okay. We've been away for about a month. Remember to go follow us wherever you follow your podcasts. You can follow us right now on our social media pages, over on TikTok or on Instagram at Say It Like You See It Pod. It's great to be back with you. We are going to be back on Friday to discuss more NFL talk and more NBA talk as the NBA Finals get underway. It's Moose here.
Let's go Heat.
Yeah, no, let's go Nugs all day long, baby.
Michael Jordan Jr., baby.
We've got, like I said, that Friday show coming up at 2:00 from Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. It's Trace the Moose Moustakis signing off, and Quinn Redmond from Fargo, North Dakota. We'll see you on Friday.